online for joining us. Can I just say that this meeting will be convened as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as possible following the meeting. The meeting agenda pack can also be viewed on the Council's website. Everyone participating in the meeting will be attending either in the Council chamber or from remote locations. Members attending remotely must keep their cameras on for the duration of the meeting. However, all attendees should keep their microphones off until invited to speak. Members and officers can indicate they want to speak by pressing the hands up icon, and then you'll be invited to speak by the chair. I'll now proceed to the agenda business. Item number 1 is the apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. I've had apologies from Councillor Martin Hughes, and Deb Austin has let us know that she will join the meeting at 11:30 this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Nope. Okay.
Chair.
Item.
Oh, Chair.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Nora. I didn't.
That's
my apologies.
If I can give Councillor Rob Smith's apologies, please.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you for that.
You.
If there are no other apologies, then item 2 on the agenda is our declarations of interest. Okay, silence is golden. Item 3 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, which are pages 3 to 14 of the agenda pack, and they are for correctness only. If everyone's satisfied, someone prepared to move? Thank you, Councillor Granville. Councillor Davis seconded. Anyone against? Nope. Thank you very much. Item 4 then is the Governance and Audit Action Report. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Well, the purpose of this report is to provide members with an update on the Governance and Audit Committee action record. The action record was devised to assist the committee in tracking the decisions made by the committee in the exercise of its functions. In terms of the recommendation, the committee is recommended to note the action record and provide any comments as appropriate. I should just add that some of the most important items here form parts of the agenda for the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Are there any questions? Obviously, there are matters on the agenda which we'll be discussing a little later on. There are some issues, certainly in regards to the Porthcawl Harbour return and the complaints issues where we've referred matters to Scrutiny Committee. And again, we'll be following that up shortly in regards to what's been happening there. And again, in regards to the recommendations, I think, which has been done about parking enforcement is going to be picked up in the report by Joan. So lots of the issues will be picked up, and obviously people will see that we got reports coming to us in June, and we've got some, as we said, items on today's agenda. The item in regards to the slides, which have Andrew prepared. Thanks for that, Stephen. Obviously, they were circulated to everyone, and that can be removed next time round, as can any others if we deal with them appropriately today. Any questions? Colin?
Thanks, Chair. I just want to raise an issue about a particular item we've talked about before. It's on page 19 of the pack, item 9 regarding home to work mileage. It's raised again. I think it's agenda item 11. I think it's page 253. So this issue cropped up at Subject Overview and Scrutiny Committee 3 just a couple of weeks ago, really, Monday the 7th of April, where we were looking at the county's net zero strategy review. And a review was commissioned with an organisation called Reports Online, if you want to look at it. Progress Review, Bridgend County Borough Council, Net Zero Strategy, and it was the Carbon Trust. And this issue was looked at again by them. And I'll just go to that particular report just to highlight
Colin, can I? So I don't mean to normally interrupt you. It's all right. I've cut you off. No, I've cut you off. Unfortunately, I seem to have the power to cut people off. Normally, I don't exercise it, and my apologies. I was just going to say we're going to be dealing with this item in page 200 and whatever it is of this report. Can we pick that up then? Because it raises other issues as well, in my view. And if it can wait till then, rather than you do it now, and I'm going to say again, well, we'll wait till it comes up again. Are you happy for it to wait? Is that okay? Thank you very much. Thanks, Colin. I apologise for cutting you off. I don't like cutting people off in their prime. My apologies. Okay, are there any other questions? Any comments? No, someone prepared to move we note the report?
I'll move we note.
Thank you, Richard. I have a seconder from Colin. Anyone against? No, thank you very much. Item 5 then, the Audit Wales Governance and Audit Committee reports. I see we've got Sarah Jane online. Are you taking this, Sarah?
I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lucy first off.
Hi, Lucy.
It'll be a bit of a joint act. Thanks, Chair.
Unfortunately, I haven't got a posh background like Sarah James, which says Audit Wales. So my apologies, but
no problem.
Over to you.
Good morning, Chair. I'm Lucy Herman, and I'm the Financial Audit Lead for Audit Wales. And like Sarah said, myself and Sarah are going to be going through our reports that have come to you today. So the first item is our work programme. So this provides an overview of both our financial audit and performance audit work that we've undertaken since the previous update. And this includes scheduled work for 24-25. The first element of the financial audit work is the audit of the statements of accounts. So the authority is required to submit the 24-25 accounts to the Auditor General by the 30th of June, with the intention of the audit work being completed and certified by the Auditor General by the 31st of October, in line with the deadlines agreed with Welsh Government. So in regards to the work we've done so far, we've already undertaken the planning work along with some interim work, and this will continue over the next few months. We also undertake 2 limited assurance audits, which is the Christchurch Crematorium and the Porthcawl Harbour. And the work for this is timetabled to be undertaken during the same time as our statement of accounts work, with the intention of certification also by the 31st of October. And then the last element of our financial audit work is our grant certification work, which includes our HB, subsidy, NDR, teachers' pension and pool budget grant claims. And this work is likely to commence after the work has been completed on the statement of accounts. So that's the sort of main elements of our financial audit work. So I'll now hand over to Sarah to go through the performance audit section.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
you,
Lucy. We just need one point. I've had a question posed in regards to the terminology, which is the limited assurance audit of Christchurch. Right. I think it's the terminology of limited, because within our audit committee, limited means something completely different. That it's obviously there are some risks associated with it. I think it's limited because it's not a full-blown set of accounts, which we normally do.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering whether you could say the assurance audits rather than limited in future, so it doesn't set hairs running.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, it's just the level of work that we do on those bodies is less than the sort of the other audits. So, yeah. No,
that's okay.
Obviously, that's fine.
It's got a different meaning. People thinking, oh, it's a limited, there are issues with it. There are no issues. It's just you do, it's a shorter sort of period and, less in depth than my understanding. So that's the main thing. So thank you for that. No worries. Thank you. Sarah Jane, I do apologise. I've cut the people off today.
It's absolutely fine. So just quickly in terms of the performance audit areas of work, just to highlight some key updates really. So you'll see there it mentions the commissioning review. That's the thematic review we're doing across all 22 councils. Just to kind of update, excuse me, we've completed the field work and we'll be drafting a report shortly on that. You'll see that our local work for 24-25 is on risk management, and we're currently in the process of arranging the interviews with the council. They'll be happening over the next couple of weeks. The update also includes our local government studies. In terms of the temporary accommodation, just to say the fieldwork has now been completed and we are in the process of drafting the report. And the capital planning work is also underway. Bridgend isn't one of the sort of tracer councils for that study. And there's a piece of work scheduled for on children's services. Just to update that, we have been discussing the scope with CIW and the executive group of ADSS. And as you'll be aware, the update includes progress on work undertaken by SIN and CIW, and also national reports that we've published recently. And just to kind of highlight at the end of the update, it includes the work that we do as part of our good practice exchange, and it includes links to the presentations from the recent event on cost of failure in financial management and governance, which audit committee members may be interested to see. So I just wanted to flag that, but happy to take any questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah Jane. Thank you for the update. Greatly appreciated. Are there any questions from members? Biden?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The question I have is on page 17 of the pack, which is on Port Call Harbour. And
I don't know whether you receive him, Biden, but you've frozen.
oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I think I
That's
should be
okay.
back now.
That's
Am I
okay.
back now?
Yep, we're back now.
All right. So under the update, yeah, thank you. So under the update, it says an update has been requested and provided to GSC as soon as possible. I'm a bit concerned about as soon as possible in this sort of document. Is it possible for us to be definite about when this will be provided instead of just saying as soon as possible? Just an observation. Thank you.
Was that a
Sorry.
question? Was that a question in regards to the accounts of the
Oh,
harbour?
okay. Yeah, on Port Call, yeah, on Port Call, yeah, on the harbour, Port Call harbour, yeah. It's under the updates and the response.
Yeah, sorry, Lucy. I think the question is when is it likely? Is it definite to take place and start on the 31st of October? That, I assume, is that the question, Biden?
Yeah, exactly. To be sure when exactly we're looking at, not that we'll just pick it up at any point in time.
The intention is for when we receive the annual return to do the work around the same time we're doing the statement of accounts work. So the intention is for it to be certified by the 31st of October.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I guess we can note it actually in the reports instead of as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Biden. Colin?
Yeah, it's just a question really on page 40 of the pack regarding the good practice exchange events and resources. And there's potential for a session on the workforce of the future. I just wondered, has that date been set? If you've got any more information about that event? Thanks.
Chair, you happy for me to come in on that?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Sarah Jane.
I don't at the moment, I'm afraid, but what I would say is if you aren't already kind of signed up to our newsletter, if you go into the link in the update, you'll be able to sign up to the newsletter and then you'll receive information about when those events are taking place. But I'll also check in with the team and send further information once I know a bit more. But yeah, I would certainly just encourage you to kind of sign up to those newsletters so you'll get that information as soon as it's available as well.
Thanks, Sarah Jane. Are there any other questions? I've just got a couple. As I said, Deb is unfortunately going to join us later. It's one in regards to the performance audit work, and one for the council really, which is the assurance and risk assessment, corporate management on page 29, corporate management board workshop, 12th of February 2025. Is there likely to be any update on that shortly, Caris?
That's probably something that Sarah Jane and I between us would need to do, in that, yes, we did have a workshop with all of the regulators and the corporate management board, which actually was a very, very good session. I think we did it differently this year. So the corporate management board put forward what they thought were the risks facing services, and actually they married very well with what Audit Wales and the other regulators were already picking up. I suppose the other question then is when we will actually get that final report, and I'm assuming that's still with Audit Wales for finalising, is it, Sarah Jane?
Chair, happy for me to come in then? I know other
please,
people
Sarah.
got their hands up. Yeah, so just to echo what Cara said there in terms of the workshop, from our perspective, it was a really rounded, constructive discussion. Corporate management board engaged really constructively, productively with that. In terms of report, there won't be a kind of report as such on this piece of work. It's more of an ongoing piece of work. If there are particular concerns that we identify through the course of this, through the assurance and risk assessment work, we will have those discussions with the council. Ultimately, it does help shape our work, for which you'll see in the audit plan, which is one of the items that you'll be receiving today. But there's no kind of specific output as such that gives any kind of formal conclusion on that. So just to clarify that, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah Jane. It may be that Caris can bring a short report to us, just outlining, what the outcome was and any areas that are going to be looked at, something like that. Just a general update report for governance and audit. Would that be feasible, Caris?
Just to say, Chair, sorry, Caris. Sorry.
Go on, Sarah
Jane.
Just to say, I guess, the outcome from that is captured in the audit plan, which touches on the areas we're going to focus on for 25-26. So I can pick that up in I think it's the item after next.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. As long as we don't miss it, that's the issue. Thank you for that. I've got one more question. Andrew, I'm aware you're online there, so just one more question from Deb. It was in regards, and I don't know whether you can answer this, Sarah Jane, because it's one of the CIW matters, which is the thematic review about the regional adoption collaborative issues, I believe. And basically, Deb's posed the question is, will this work consider the impact of cross-border working beyond the boundaries, and will it also provide models of good practice? I don't know whether you can take that back to CIW and see if we can get a response.
Yes, sorry, I can't answer that on CIW's behalf. I don't know the detail of that work, but I'll certainly take that back and get them to come back to you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Sarah. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. My apologies, I'm not sure it's a question for Audit Wales, but I did pick up the pack on page 43 where it talks about the draft statements weren't presented until after the deadline set last year by the Welsh Government. So I think they were sent on the 17th of July, where they should be named for the 30th of June. And my apologies, I can't quite remember what the reason was for that, but I'm hoping if somebody could just sort of fill in the gap for me. And I suppose just providing assurance that we're all on track for this year. Thank you.
Is that you, Lucy, or?
No, I think
Caris?
it's me. Yeah. We are on track this year. There's been a lot of work. They've pulled the completion dates forward again for this for the 24-25 accounts. There's been a lot of dialogue between Audit Wales and local authorities with regards to how we manage that to make sure that we both hit the deadlines that have been set for us. And I think it's fair to say Audit Wales are already in doing quite a lot of work on the financial. We haven't closed the accounts yet, but they're doing a lot of the systems work and the preparatory work, so that we're all working very hard to make sure that we hit those targets this year. But it is a challenge for both of us, I would say, for both the council and for Audit Wales to complete that audit in time. But so far, we're going according to plan.
Andrew, does that deal with your question?
Yeah, thank you. And I was just picking up really at the back of my mind, I suppose leases is a big thing. So I suppose it's getting our head run at the early stages, but it sounds like things are all in progress. So thank you.
Andrew. It's it's good that we're working well as a team to get the advanced work in, and being mindful as well that the other 21 authorities are in the same position. So it must be a tremendous amount of work for all the teams in local authorities. Richard.
Chair, this is not a question. This is, if I can ask you, can the officers please go on the top table, because I'm having great difficulty listening to what they're saying, because their voices are projecting to you and not coming back to us out here. Thank you, Chair.
Do you want to move now?
Chair, can I just say I'm partially deaf, and this is good because I do find myself sometimes leaning forward towards the officers. I lip read as well, to make up for it. And so this is. I know it's daunting. I know you don't want to sit there, but it does help.
I thought we discussed that last meeting, but I'm sure the officers don't mind sitting up with me as long as they can put up with me. That's the main thing. And yeah, anything that assists, that's the main thing, isn't it? So just to say thank you to the officers for coming up. Okay, there are no other questions. Any comments? No. If I can. The recommendation then obviously is to, I should imagine, note the contents of the report, which is the committee notes the Audit Wales Governance and Audit Committee reports.
I don't think we've done all of the Audit Wales
Okay,
reports.
So we've done Appendix A. Yeah. So is there anything on Appendix B and C? Who's doing Appendix B? I think we've had the one question from Andrew in regards to the let's get there first. The detailed audit plan. No, the first report, that was the one before that. So is there anything on Appendix B you want to raise, Sarah Jane or Lucy?
Only just to say really that, it is just a summary of work that we've done since we issued the last annual audit summary. It'll be work that you're familiar with because I think all the reports have previously been through, come through yourselves. So, unless there's any particular questions.
Okay, no, that's great. And the same on Appendix C, which is the detailed audit plan, same comment really.
I guess if Lucy kind of talks through, because I guess the audit plan talks through, what the risks and those kind of things. So if Lucy kind of covers that first, and then I'll come in and we can explain to you what we're doing in terms of the work and the fee, etc. So I'll hand over to Lucy first off on that one, if that's okay.
Thanks, Sarah Jane. Lucy.
Thank you, Chair. So Appendix C is our annual plan, our audit plan. So I'll just highlight some of the key areas for your attention. As you're aware, the Auditor General is responsible for providing an opinion on the true and fairness of the statements of accounts. And the Auditor General also has other responsibilities which are detailed in page 6 of the report. So when we undertake our work, we don't actually test for absolute correctness of the financial statements. We apply a concept of materiality. And the materiality is the level of misstatement that could occur, that could cause the user of the accounts to be misled. And the materiality is based on gross expenditure. And per the plan, it's 5.6 million for 24-25. There are some areas of the accounts that might be more important to users of the accounts, and for those particular areas, we adjust our materiality figures. And those areas are the remuneration report and related parties. and the details of these are detailed in page 8 of the plan. So page 9 of the plan details the audit risks that we've identified through our planning work. And through the work we've undertaken so far, we've identified one area of significant risk, and that is the risk of management override. This is a standard risk that can't be rebutted, and this is in line with our international standards. There is, however, some areas of focus which we've identified as risks of material misstatement, which, although we don't deem them to be significant risks, we've reported in the report as they are areas which we believe our audit will focus on. So these are the valuation of the pension fund liabilities and surpluses, the valuation of land and buildings, senior officer remuneration, the IFRS 16 lease disclosures, the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee transactions and related parties. Finally, just some other points to note in the plan. The timetable for the audit work is detailed on page 14. I know this has been touched upon in the other documents that we've provided. The audit fee is also on page 20, and the audit team that we've got in place is noted on page 21. So I'll now hand to Sarah to go through the performance audit elements.
Thanks, Lucy. Thank you. So yes, just to say, it picks up on the conversation we were having earlier, really. The work that we're proposing to do for 25-26 is set out on page 17. We've highlighted 3 particular areas at this stage. Just to clarify, it's likely that we'll focus on 2 of those. So we're talking about counter-fraud arrangements, planning services, and potentially a kind of a thematic review across the 10 South East Wales councils looking at disabled facilities grants. I know that there has been kind of some attention around DFGs at this committee previously, and we did do some work in that area a couple of years ago. On the counter-fraud arrangements, we did do a national report on this again a couple of years ago. We haven't done a detailed piece of work at the council. Clearly, you know, that in that national report, I think we identified a number of recommendations, and we're really keen to see the council's progress in addressing those recommendations. And in terms of planning services, this is a key frontline service, obviously, you know, a really important service to the council. Whilst we know that the council's made good progress in terms of its local development plan, there are some areas of performance that we wish to explore. We have done this piece of work at a number of other councils recently, and it's proved to be a really productive piece of work. So, but just to clarify, we will come back to you in the next meeting or the next update to confirm where we are going to focus our work, but it will be on 2 of those 3 areas. And Lucy has just highlighted, obviously, the fee is also captured in the audit plan. Just to remind you that the fee is an estimate and that we cannot make profits on our work. So, you know, it's just an estimate at this stage. Also, the audit team is highlighted there, and we just need to draw your attention to the one independence issue, and to assure you that we obviously take steps to minimise the risk around that. And also then at the end of the report, it talks about our approach to audit quality. You know, we obviously place, you know, a huge stall on making sure that our work is done to a high quality. And I mentioned the good practice exchange events and things earlier as well. But yeah, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Thank you, Lucy. Obviously, we've now looked at Appendix B and C. Are there any questions? No. Are there any? Oh, Audit.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Actually, it's not a question. It's just the feedback to say I was happy to see that there was a reduction in the fee, even though it's a small amount, but that talks to some efficiency that are put in by the audit Wales team to refund us some money. Actually, I think that's really commendable, and looking forward to further reduction with more efficiencies put into the process. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Biden. Anyone else? Any comments? No. Any go to the recommendation then. As I said, the recommendation is to note the Audit Wales Governance and Audit Committee reports at Appendix A, Appendix B, and Appendix C. Someone for it?
I'll
please?
move. We note.
Thank you. Seconded. Thank you, Colin. Anyone against? No. Thank you. Item 6 then, which is the regulatory tracker, pages 75 to 90. Is that Alex?
It's Kate.
Oh, Kate. Hello.
Hello.
Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Kate Pask, Corporate Performance Manager. The report provides the committee with a summary of the regulatory tracker updated to the end of Q3 24-25, as well as updating the committee on some key points of concern that were raised the last time the tracker report was presented in January. Paragraphs 3.3 to 3.7 in the report summarise the current tracker content and performance, or the performance at Q3, and it shows that there are 11 inspections included on the tracker currently, with 80 recommendations. 3 new inspections have actually been added since the last report. There are currently 15 amber and 1 red recommendations, which are detailed in Appendix 1 in a bit more detail for you. And this is a very much improved position on what you saw at Q2. 6 recommendations have been closed at Q3, and these are detailed in Appendix 2. So to update on the issues raised last time, the key issues raised were the need to understand the process used by corporate management board and senior officers for making decisions on addressing audit recommendations and on the completion date, target dates. And secondly, the need to understand the detail of the process agreed between the Governance and Audit Committee Chair and the Scrutiny Chairs for referring audits from Governance and Audit Committee to Scrutiny, and how we would provide updates on those audits. In response to the issues raised, Corporate Management Board have considered the points and recommendations and have agreed to see the regulatory and consider the regulatory tracker twice yearly from now on, before it is submitted to Governance and Audit Committee, and also to minimise any changes to the target dates. The performance team have also reviewed the timings of the reports and feel that it would be beneficial if those dates were changed to April and October going forward. As we said in the last meeting, a meeting did take place between the Governance and Audit Committee Chair and the Scrutiny Chairs back in December in order to improve the referral processes. There was a definite agreement at that meeting in the need for a collaborative approach, but also recognition that the roles of all of the committees are different. The group discussed referrals from Governance and Audit Committee to Scrutiny, and it was agreed that it will still be up to the Scrutiny Chairs to determine what will go on their forward work programmes using the criteria and priorities they've agreed, and that they will have more regular meetings to help with this collaborative approach going forward between all of the chairs. There's a bit more detail in exactly the process that was agreed in 3.1 of your report. It goes through exactly how we're going to have the communication back and forth with the referrals. These measures have actually already been actioned, which you will have seen in the cost forward work programme update in March and the action record report for today's Governance and Audit meeting. Paragraphs 3.13 to 3.15 provides the committee with some additional examples of Scrutiny's involvement in monitoring recommendations on the tracker, where the inspection or the inspection or audit report itself hasn't necessarily been an individual item on the agenda. So the committee are asked today to consider the summary points and recommendations in paragraph 9 and the detailed regulatory tracker and raise any issues of concern for follow-up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kate. Questions, please, Simon?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a huge step forward from where we were a couple of years ago. It's now very easy to see exactly where we are. So thanks to officers for actually providing all of this. I have one main question actually, which is around the delivery date. Many of the delivery dates have passed back in March 24, June 24, and so on. But these items are still as amber or red in one case. I wonder what that delivery date is. That the original delivery date that was planned, and then we've missed it? Because if we've missed it, then we should be replanning and working out when the new delivery date should be. So I'm just after how do we track our performance against dates which are actually in the past in this case?
Thanks, Simon. Kate?
Yes, the delivery date that's on the tracker is the original delivery date. That would have been what was agreed between the department being audited and the auditing body at the time. I think where we've realised afterwards that some of those dates were not possible. It was more work than it needed, than we thought it would be originally. We did start to put revised delivery dates within the commentary, but part of the concern raised at the last Governance and Audit Committee was whether or not those dates were allowing sort of too much slippage. So I suppose that's something maybe we need feedback on as to how you want us to represent that for you to see them, you know, where we are at the moment. The RAG hopefully is helping to realise how much slippage the officers think there is and how much risk they think there is around the recommendation not being completed. But we have asked for them to give a little bit more detail of what their next steps are and or what the real delivery dates are at the moment in that commentary.
If I may have a follow-up, Chair, I think the original delivery date is very helpful because it does tell us how much it has slipped. But I do also notice that in the commentary where they have added the revised delivery dates, those we've already passed some of those revised dates as well. I would really like to have an extra column here. I know it is hard work to do this, but a delivery date and now a projected delivery date, so that we actually know when this report comes, when it's likely to be completed if it hasn't been. It's difficult to track. We're over a year behind on some of these, and we've now missed the revised date. That's not a great position for us to be in, really.
Thanks, Simon. It was a question I was going to pose as well. I think the issue I think we have with these reports is that we're 3 months behind the curve here. So these are up till December 24. We've got dates of March 25, which will come out in the next tracker dates. But it's obviously if it slips again next time, having had that revised date, we've got one red at the moment, which obviously does give me some concern, even though that date is being put to the 31st of March 25. But sorry, a lot of the others are March 25, and I think whilst Kate and the team are at the end of the sausage machine here, because obviously they're given the information for them, the directorates, I think your point is very valid, because if this slips again, then I think there's time and a place then for some of the directors and the cabinet members to be called in and to be accountable for why this is continuing to slip. And it's the same issue all the time, is, some of these issues have been pointed out in 23, 24 and if they continue to slip, then where's the importance to these issues if they're, the recommendations? So I think next time round, I think we are going to, my view is we scrutinise it even further then, and if they've slipped again, that then the directors and the cabinet member be called in to account as to why these issues haven't been addressed in a timely manner. But obviously, I'll be guided by the committee in regards to those issues. But I think it's the report in we're 3 months behind the drag curve is the issue for me in regards to some of these issues. Kate, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just to come in on that, we can definitely add that column in for you to be able to see the difference in the dates and what the current date is. I think it's always important to still remember what the original delivery date was. So I don't think we want to lose that original delivery date from the report. In terms of timings, unfortunately, it does take that long between the report approval process and actually getting getting the best update that we can on that, because I think if we rush the updates to sort of squeeze the timings a bit, maybe they won't be as accurate as they need to be. So that there is an issue there, but that's something that we were looking at with changing the timings of when this report was coming to you. But it's maybe something we need to do a little bit more work on and see what the optimum sort of date of it coming to Governance and Audit Committee is, so that we can get the most recent data to you, but make sure that it's definitely right and we can give some assurance around its accuracy as well.
The only other comment I'd make before I invite other members' questions is that I am just a little concerned that it's only going to go to the management team every 6 months, whereas we get it every 3 months. And again, you know, leaving it a little longer may actually cause problems for the directorates, because obviously the management team need to be on the ball in regards to dealing with these issues if they're still outstanding, and to look at them on a 6-monthly basis, I think, you know, may cause some difficulty, but that's just my comment. Okay, Councillor Martin Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, there's a lawnmower going on outside. I fully agree with what Councillor Griffiths said. I know that there's a danger we end up navel gazing and talking about the process rather than what we're here to audit. But a separate column, I think, would be really important. And for the hard of thinking like me, I'd like to see those color coded as well. If the original date is passed, I want to see it red. And if the revised date is passed, I want to see that red or green. Hopefully, it's all green. The other thing to go to your point as well, Chair, regarding timeliness of updates. In this day and age, why can we not have a live document that members of this committee can log into when they see fit? I mean, that's perhaps the ideal world, but at least if it's updated on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, it's not going to be daily, is it? But when there's an update, we get an email and we can have a look. That would be something that, you know, maybe it's not for the whole council, maybe it's not for the public, but if the members of this committee could see that, we could have some assurance that in between our meetings that there is progress going on and we don't have nasty surprises every quarter.
Thanks for that, Martin. Alex?
Yeah, just to say that performance as a whole across the council is managed quarterly, as is the regulatory tracker. We do update that every quarter and we take it to scrutiny committees. We just agreed at this particular committee, I don't know what it was, 2 years ago, that we would have that updates here every 6 months. So that's what we've been having for the last couple of years, January and July. I suppose on your point about live updates, you know, this is not a piece of general performance information. This is recommendations from auditors. So I suppose that's why we would say that we update it on a quarterly basis with all the rest of the performance information of the council. I think any more often wouldn't give you any additional information that you seek, I don't think. And I think any less, obviously, you know, you wouldn't want anyway. So just to reassure you, this is part, and this has been integrated, as we've told you before, into the general performance reporting of the council as something we do every quarter. We could bring it here 3 times a year, but I'm not sure it would give you any great additional amount of information, really.
Martin, did you want to come back?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that clearly we have formal reporting periods, whether that's financial or whether that's, you know, whether that's performance or audit or what have you. That doesn't mean that the data isn't being collated in the background. And given that this is effectively a register of actions and when they're open and closed, you know, when there's an update, I don't see any issue in this committee seeing progress as it happens. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop the formal reporting, and in a business you'd see the management accounts every month anyway, you know. So, but yet that wouldn't necessarily be your reporting period. It's just to keep us a bit sharper, perhaps. But I'll be guided by the rest of you.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Simon.
Piece of information. two things actually. So the first thing, I'm not exactly sure why something is red and why something is amber. The red that we have seems to have the same delivery date as other items, March 23. It seems to have the same revised delivery dates. So I'm not quite sure why that one is red and not the others. But I want to pick up on your suggestion, Chair. Depending on the response to the answer about why something is red, should we have a protocol where if something is red or maybe red for 2 quarters, then we actually automatically request the director to come in and explain why it's still red. So officers can do that themselves. So when they come to this and they see something red, they send out the invite to the appropriate director to come and explain to us why it's still red.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable suggestion. I think it'd get support from the members here. But did you want to come in, Kate?
Thank you, Chair. It's just on the difference between the red and amber. I can refer you to paragraph 2.2 of the report. It sets out the framework that we use, and that's not just for the red tracker, that's for all of the performance information that we're looking at, whether it's a performance indicator or a corporate plan commitment. So the officers are actually asked to judge based on this, whether or not it's red or amber. So there are differences there that will be teased out by that. Even though they've got the same delivery date, they might be deemed as more of a risk, or there's more slippage, or slippage in more than one area, or budgetary concerns as well. There's different elements that are in there that go into that.
Thank you, Kate. So I understand that. Thank you for the explanation. So in that case, Chair, I think my suggestion stands, which is if something is read in 2 successive quarters or reports to us, then we should automatically invite the director to come in and explain why it's not shifting.
Yeah, thank you for that, Simon. Richard?
Well, I agree with Councillor Griffiths there, and I would ask Councillor Griffiths if he would like to move that as a formal motion. I will second that motion.
Yeah, I move that, Chair.
And I'll formally second it, Chair.
Okay, that's an amended, and obviously another recommendation. So are there any other questions? Are there any comments? No, the only comments I've got is in regards to, and I think it's a discussion we can take outside this meeting, is in regards to when we, as a Governance and Audit Committee, refer things to Scrutiny Committee. And again, obviously, the paragraph 3.11 says it's a matter for Scrutiny to determine if and when it gets added to their forward work programme. I do just have a little bit of concern about that, because there's only 2 matters outstanding currently in the action log, one in regards to Porthcawl Harbour and the other in regards to the parking enforcement procedures that are dealt with by another authority which you contract with to undertake it. The only concern I've got is if we refer it to scrutiny, I would welcome it to be looked at nearly almost immediately, because there is a concern then being raised. Firstly, in regards to possibly being value for money. Secondly, are they delivering the service the council wishes? And there may be other issues. So if we can discuss some of those issues outside the meeting, because to let the Scrutiny Committee decide if they're going to look at it actually could be costing the council money. And again, we've all got a fiduciary duty to the council taxpayer. So I'm just wondering whether we can look at that going forward. Richard?
Thank you, Chair, and I would agree with your principles, but my concern is there anybody from this committee go into a Scrutiny Committee and put in our points forward, right, in a practical manner like yourself, that can put them across in the way that you were just saying now and illustrating, and just not reading an officer's report and it's not highlighted how important it is, right? And that's my worry about it.
Thanks. I know Rachel wants to come in. I've got to say I did have a good meeting with the chairs of Scrutiny, and obviously we agreed some processes going forward. But I do think in some stage is that there does need to be some timeliness in some of the matters we refer. And again, maybe that when we refer it, we put a reason for referral and what needs to be looked at. Maybe that could assist the scrutiny committee a little bit better. Rachel, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and just to pick up exactly what you just mentioned in terms of a clear rationale and reasoning behind any referral would be extremely useful to the scrutiny committee, as that helps them to consider it and prioritise it, etc. I do have to highlight that obviously they do have their own priorities, and even some of the, they have to move some of their own priorities even further down the list sometimes for further priorities that come in that are urgent. So it's measuring the referral against what's already on their forward work programme, unfortunately. So we can't guarantee they'll be looked at straight away. The perfect example is the one with the parking enforcement, for example. Actually, when it's been scoped, and again, we need to allow time to scope the item out properly to present it to the scrutiny committee. But in scoping it, it's actually coming out as possibly not necessarily a concern in terms of value for money, but actually a positive thing where it's creating income. So it's possibly, when the scrutiny committee looks at it, there's an idea that it could be looked at by some form of budget when research and evaluation panel, and looked at as an example of where we can use, that idea in other ways and expand on it, etc., in terms of income generation. So as you can see, it's not always there's a clear concern and it's vital that it's looked at urgently. That one actually is not necessarily come out as a massive concern, but actually come as a positive, but scrutiny can still consider it and use it in their work. So it's a bit of measuring, as I said, against their own priorities. But again, with other members from this committee sitting on scrutiny committees, they can also put their views forward, as you said, and you can as well in your meetings with the chairs. And I think that's the key discussion really, is to highlight its priority, its urgency, and then again for the chairs to negotiate with you in terms of what else is on their forward work programme and see what can be done. So I couldn't guarantee that it would be looked at immediately in every single circumstance, because there could be something very urgent, pre-decision, for example, on their forward work programme, which is time restrictive, and they have to look at that item at their next meeting in order to get any recommendations for pre-decision scrutiny. So as I said, I couldn't guarantee that, but as I said, hopefully with the new process and your meetings with the chairs and other fellow members taking this committee's views forward in scrutiny committees, hopefully that will help. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for that. Colin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with what Rachel has just said. We've got a review ongoing at the moment, and I think proposals are being put to the next council meeting around the new scrutiny structure. But I think more clarity around principles and process would be helpful, because I sit on 2 other scrutiny committees, and sometimes it is I'm scratching my head thinking, why aren't we discussing this when we agreed that we'd be discussing it? In terms of the timetable, I know Rachel said in terms of preparation it's tough, in terms of meeting deadlines and stuff, but just some written clarity around principles and processes would be really helpful, I think, because the better we work together, the better, obviously. I shouldn't have to say that, but you know what I mean. And yeah, I just want to make that point, really. Thanks.
Thanks, Colin. Councillor Matt Williams.
Yeah, it was just an observation, really, and perhaps echoing some of the slight confusion, and hopefully the review that's ongoing will help that. Is there does seem to be, the mood music in the review that's been going on in the last few weeks and months has been about forward scrutiny and advising and rather than criticising, and that does seem to be slightly at odds with sending performance matters to scrutiny to be forensically examined. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but I'm just saying there does seem to be a bit of a clash of ideas here as to what is the purpose of scrutiny, and I think it's a balance. I think it's forward and performance related, but I just highlighting that in my mind I'm seeing a little bit of a contradiction here, whereas scrutiny seems to be under pressure to be proactive and look forward, and what we want to do is potentially get them to delve into the failings of the past. I'm being a bit over the top there, but you get my point.
Thank you for that. If there are no other questions or comments, if we go to the recommendations, which are contained in page 83, for Firstly, obviously, we've considered the updated process for CMB consideration of the regulatory tracker. Agreed to change regulatory tracker updates to GAC to April and October. I think, as we said, whether we ought to see it quarterly, but maybe if that's not achievable, because again, picking up Simon's point, is that having to wait 6 months for 2 reds, is a year in time, if you see what I mean. So that, I just have a little bit of an issue there. Whereas if we had them every meeting, which was quarterly, to coincide with the meetings, at least then we have 2 reds. At least the director and the cabinet member would be in, hopefully within 6 months and 9 months at the very latest. Because otherwise, if we got 2 meetings 6 monthly, that's a year, and then to call them into the next meeting, which was 6 months down the line, that's a year and a half. I don't think my own view is we're doing justice to it. So I'm just asking whether the team can look at the regulatory tracker coming every 3 months to us. Alex, do you want to comment on that?
I just wonder whether we keep it at 2 sessions a year, and maybe we bring the reds to the ones in between.
That's ideal. You're
a much smaller number then, aren't you?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And maybe if any ambers go to red, they come as well. But I think, it is the reds that are called in the concern. But the issue with regards to the ones we've had today is that we've got the forward work date on most of the ambers, which is 31st of March 25. And when they come next time, they may actually now be red. So we just need to be a bit careful. I'm happy to, subject the committee agreeing that suggestion. They come April and October, and in between, it's just the red ones that come to us for to look at, and then obviously we can call the director in and the cabinet member at the meeting after that. I'm just wanting to make sure that Simon and Richard are happy with that, given that they moved the amendment to the recommendations, or given an additional amendment to the recommendations. Simon, have you got a view on that?
Yeah, I'm happy, Chair.
Okay. Richard? Yep. Okay. So we're with you there, Alex, then. So we'll do the regulatory tracker, the GAC, April and October, but with any reds being brought to the meetings in between. Sorry, Deb.
Sorry, Chair, can I just say the regulatory tracker coming to this meeting is not the normal one. The normal ones are January and July.
Right.
So this one would be an interim one, the April one. So it would be April and October or November for the reds, I would say. Right. So the full tracker would normally comes January and July.
Is that what's being proposed, Alex, or are you on about?
I just want to change it.
Can we check?
No, we're proposing in this report that we've brought to you today that we change it to April and October, November.
Yep.
So then your opposite ones would then be the reds only. Yeah. So your January and July or whatever. I mean, so to be honest, you're going to get the you're getting the self-assessment every July anyway, which has got the regulatory tracker for the end of year in it. So you pretty much get. I mean, even though you're not getting it by having it in April and September, October, you're getting it 3 times a year anyway, because you have the self-assessment separately in July.
No, that's okay. So we are changing the dates from wherever, but we'll have the interim ones with the reds. Okay, so we're agreeing that. And obviously we consider the scrutiny arrangements at 3:10 to 15, which obviously we note that at the moment, and obviously they need to be organic as things move on, as been discussed. And then we've got the additional recommendation that if there are 2 consecutive reds within the tracker, then at the following meeting that the director and cabinet member be called in to explain why the recommendations haven't been dealt with.
Do you think that's appropriate, though, Chair? Don't you think, because I'm only going what you're saying, and you've got more experience than us, a year and a half to wait. If there is a serious issue...
No, this will be 6 months.
Oh, you're going to do it in 6 months?
Yeah.
That's fine.
So, yeah, we'll have the 6 months. So I'm saying if we have a red in April, and it's a red again in June, or whatever, July, then they'd be in October. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah, okay. Well, that's clarity there. So you've got that site, Stephen, the additional recommendation. Someone prepared to move, please?
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Can I have a second there? Colin, thank you. Anyone against? No, thank you. Thank you, officers, for that. Greatly appreciated your time. Item 7 then is the self-assessment. 24, 25. Alex?
This one is me. Yeah, thank you. That's why we had Kate doing the other one. You don't want me all morning. Alex Rawlin, Corporate Policy and Performance Manager. So the report in front of you reflects on last year's corporate self-assessment and proposes an approach to development of the self-assessment for 2024-25. The background to self-assessment is quite well rehearsed now, although I go over it again in the report for any new members, and this will be our 4th self-assessment. Each year we've reflected on previous approaches and made improvements to our self-assessment, and many of those have been guided by the work of the Governance and Audit Committee over those years, including using information from the newly developed regulatory tracker, publishing performance information alongside the self-assessment, adding case studies, including more comprehensive information on consultation and engagement, scoring objectives and aims using a more objective process, including a section on how well we performed against identified areas for improvement, and embedding self-assessment in the quarterly performance process. Generally, our proposals are to follow the same process as last year, to score our aims and objectives in the same way, and to present the report in largely the same format. So this means that performance requirement 1 on service performance, we use existing performance information reported quarterly and then score it based on that methodology that we went over and you agreed last year. Performance requirement 2 on use of resources, we use those templates again completed by heads of service and then rigorously test and moderate them. Performance requirement 3 then on governance summarises the annual governance statement, and obviously GAC will have reviewed and signed that off by then. So the only real significant differences we propose for 2024-25 are we would like to try and fulfil our reporting requirement on the new social partnership duty as part of the self-assessment, and that's as outlined in paragraph 3.4. We aim to present our findings to CCMB on the 8th of July and then Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee on the 24th of July, alongside the absolute full detail of Q4 performance data. So we suggest in paragraph 3.8 that GAC members may want to observe that cost meeting if they're keen to see how the detailed performance scrutiny role plays out in practice. And then finally, we aim to present our draft self-assessment report to Governance and Audit Committee on the 17th of July. And I think I just wanted to assure you that this year, the short performance report that we publish alongside the self-assessment report will be ready to form part of the GAC papers, because it did feel like we were missing that a little bit last year. That would then give you a better understanding of the Council's performance against each wellbeing objective, aim, PI and commitment, and that then underpins the self-assessment judgments. So that should give you additional reassurance about the fairness and accuracy of the process. So on that then, I just take you to the recommendations in paragraph 9.
Thank you, Alex, for the paper. Any questions, Simon?
So I guess what I'm interested in is what's our long-term direction. Are we getting better or are we getting worse in terms of our performance? I'm pleased to see in 3.1 that you're suggesting some visualizations about but those I think are a little bit more focused on the current position. What I'm really after here is whether we can add some visualizations around the overall trend. Now this has been going for a couple of years. Then there may be useful trends that we can identify. So they may be able to show us areas where we need to refocus because things are not improving or things are going worse. So I'm a great believer in visualizations and informatics, and they generally can say not 1,000 words, they can say 1,000,000 words if you actually get them right, if you get the good infographic in there. But I think that it's the moving now from just a point in time reporting into more trends. I'm not quite sure how that would fit in, but I think that's what I would encourage you to look at to see whether we can build into this next one.
Thanks, Simon. Alex?
I think we're probably in the unusual position for 2024-25 of actually having direct comparability, because obviously we had the same wellbeing objectives for the year before last as we've had for the year we're just finishing. So I think even on the basis of just, we presented that red, amber, green sort of table at the beginning of the self-assessment last year. Even if we compare that, so we have one that has last year's red, amber, green, this year's red, amber, green, I think that would probably help us on that front. It becomes more difficult when we rationalise the wellbeing objectives for next year, which we've just agreed at council to do. But I mean, I'm not pushing it into the long grass, but that does sound like a problem for next year. And I think this year we probably have got a sensible way through.
If I may come back, Chair, I think the way to go forward in that is that there are many measures which are carried forward. And I think what you will do next year is just look at the ones that are still existing next year. So it will be a difficult picture to do at the corporate level, but for the individual ones, you'll be able to do the trend.
Thanks for that, Simon. Biden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank Alex. Just a bit of clarity around sections 3.8 and 3.9. And what's not clear to me is that anything wrong had been, okay, maybe is that we didn't follow the procedure. When I look at 3.9, we're saying report presented on 17th of July, and we then go to COSC on the 24th, right? So is there something that should have been done differently, or what exactly is the issue? And you can then also guide me on how the process works. Thank you.
Alex?
So are you asking if we should essentially be having COSC before GAC? Are you saying essentially that the sort of scrutiny consideration of performance should happen before the Governance and Audit Committee assurance on the process? Is that the question?
Yeah, because I don't know what is right, but I knew, because if we will have looked at something because we're like in a 3-line of defense sort of arrangement, we are probably like overseeing the second line and also the third line, right? So why would another committee then look at what we have looked at earlier? I thought that maybe they should have looked at it before. But again, I'm indifferent. I just wanted to know, because the way it was worded was if something wasn't done the right way. So I'm not, I just want clarity about what the process really is. Thank you.
I see what you're asking. So the scrutiny committee are looking at something completely different. So they're looking at, not that you're not looking at the content of the report, but the scrutiny committee are really focused on the detailed content of the report and the self-assessment. And that's their role, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be pulling things apart, checking whether they think they're correct, checking whether they our commentary represents their views and their what they've seen in performance across the year. And your role is obviously a much more assurance one. It's to make sure that we have performance mechanisms and a performance framework that really is able to accurately tell you what's going on in the world of performance in BCBC in the year that's just passed. So they are two separate roles. And I suppose which order, ideally, the two meetings would be in the opposite order, if I'm honest with you. I would prefer to go to corporate overview and scrutiny committee first, make any changes that are needed, and then bring the report to governance and audit committee. But without doing that in, far too early for our process and getting all our information together, I can't make that work. So I think it is just one of those slightly annoying, but not necessarily a really big deal issues. Ideally, yes, we would have it the other way around, and you'd be able to go and you'd be able to go and observe the scrutiny committee and all the detailed performance information if you wanted to, and then bring all the information here. But I think, you get another bite at the cherry as well. We usually bring the report back in September, don't we? So you do have another opportunity to sort of step in. But I think ideally, yeah, they would be the other way around. Sadly, I do not have that power, but maybe when I grow up.
Thanks, Alex. Colin?
Thanks, Chair. Just want to highlight the fact that it is frustrating for officers when goalposts are moved, different committees want different things and stuff. So I respect that. It is difficult, just as we had that debate now, but the 6-month thing, that was a proposal from Alex, and that was something that, as she referred to, we talked about a couple of years back, so it is frustrating. But I just want to add to that, really, because we've talked about process. I think it is our role to look at the process. But just to say that we've got a new chief exec starting soon, and I'm sure that that person will want to contribute to, deciding how things work. So I can see, it is a statutory responsibility, this self-assessment tool. But just to ask Alice, really, how much scope is there? We've moved things around a lot. How much scope is there to change the process again
for next year?
For next year?
I think quite a lot. Yeah, I think quite a lot for the following year. We'll have a new chief exec. I don't know what's going to happen at the AGM, but all sorts of things can happen politically as well. We'll have a new set of, a slightly reduced set of wellbeing objectives that you all agreed at council the other week. So we are talking about a slightly different beast, and obviously we will have to come up with new arrangements to reflect that. I'm trying not to think too far in the future, because if I did, I think I'd jump out of a window at this point. But yeah, I think, you're right. It's going to look different next year, just like it's looked different a bit every other year. I suppose my only plea would be where we can make those changes positive and incremental and sensible, and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater, the better, really.
Thank you for that, Alex. Any other questions? Any comments? The only comment I would make, Alex, is the one that Biden, and I think other people have picked up, is that it comes to us before it goes to scrutiny. And again, I think obviously you haven't got the power to change that this year. And I think the issue for me is, what I wouldn't want is, given that we are the Governance and Audit Committee, and we are required to ensure the assurance that the process, etc., procedures are robust, is that if anything then goes to the scrutiny committee and there are major changes then made to it, I'm not saying there will be, but if there are any major changes, then clearly we need to be made aware of it. And I understand, obviously, we can be made aware of it in September, before presumably it's going to be published in October, November. So I think I've got that assurance that if anything comes out of the scrutiny committee, that we will be made fully aware of it. Because someone's going to report to us in September to say, look, when you looked at this on the 17th of July, this was the format. When you look at it now, these are the changes that have fundamentally changed the self-assessment, and therefore consider these going forward. So we've not lost it. We've actually we can review it in September. But again, I agree with you. If it can be changed in 25, that scrutiny comes before, management team scrutiny and then us, then hopefully it doesn't go anywhere else then, apart from Cabinet and to the Council to sign it off. So, I think that's the way forward. So thank you for that. Okay, there are no other comments. So you see the recommendation. The recommendation is that, having considered the report, we agree the proposed way forward for the self-assessment 2024-25. So I'm prepared to move, please.
I move.
Thank you, Richard. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Colin. Anyone against? No. Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Alex. Thank you for taking us through the report. Next report then is the Code of Corporate Governance, pages 97 to 168.
That's me. Thank you then, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to present to Governance and Audit Committee for approval an updated Code of Corporate Governance. Good governance is about doing the right things in the right way for the right people in a timely, inclusive, open, honest and accountable manner. So the Code of Corporate Governance reflects a joint commitment by members and senior managers to those principles. Corporate governance is a phrase used to describe how organisations direct and control what they do. Effective systems of corporate governance provide confidence in public services. So good corporate governance requires local authorities to carry out their services in a way that demonstrates accountability, openness and honesty. Adopting, monitoring and complying with the Code of Corporate Governance helps enhance the Council's legitimacy and acknowledges the trust placed in the Council by local people. The corporate governance is based on a framework which consists of 7 core principles, and those are detailed for you in Section 5 of Appendix A. And to achieve good governance, the authority should be able to demonstrate that its governance structures comply with those core principles. This committee is responsible for monitoring and reviewing those governance arrangements. And through the committee, the Council ensures that these arrangements are kept under continual review. Each year, the Council publishes an annual governance statement, which provides an overall assessment of the Council's corporate governance arrangements and an appraisal of the controls in place to manage the Council's key risks and details of where improvements need to be made. A draft of the annual report will be considered by this committee in July, and it will be reviewed by our external auditors. And the final version is published as part of our annual statement of accounts, which you'll see later this year. Today, we're asking committee to consider an updated Code of Corporate Governance. This document should be reviewed regularly to ensure it's as up to date as it can be, and it reflects the context within which the Council is operating. So you will see in the report that there have been some changes within the authority and also amongst partner organisations since the previous review. So what we've attached for you this morning is the current version with highlights of where the proposed changes are suggested, and also then a clean copy of the proposed revised code at Appendix B. The proposed changes are also detailed for you in the covering report at paragraph 3.1. So if I can, Chair, I just take you to Section 9 of the report, where it's recommended that Governance and Audit Committee considers and approves the Council's updated Code of Corporate Governance. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Caris. And can I just say thank you for providing the document which has got the track changes, because obviously that's extremely useful because it saves members wading through the document trying to find out where the changes are. And it's not an issue in regards to our fraud strategy, but if we could next time have a strategy which shows the track changes then the original, that would be very useful for members, because otherwise they're going to wade through it. And I understand you started work before that, but don't worry about that. Okay, any questions on the new code? Councillor Williams?
Thank you, Chair. Probably one for Caris, I think. In the last full council meeting, the council unanimously adopted a motion to declare a nature emergency. How is that? That's clearly a significant change to the way we do things. How is that incorporated within this updated document, please?
I mean, obviously we need to be open and transparent, and that's what's clear about this. It's been to council. I suppose what we would need to reflect in this document is monitor some of those actions that come out of that agreement to make sure that we can see them. I think we did a lot of these changes prior to the council meeting, to be honest with you, Councillor Williams. Therefore, it's probably not directly reflected in this version. But we will ensure that we can either incorporate it now, or we can, if committee so wish, or we can bring it to you when we next revise the document.
Okay. Councillor Davis?
Thanks, Chair. Carlos, are you able to say why we changed the wellbeing provider support to VivUp? Do you want to look at it?
That's an externally provided service.
Yeah.
So I think the previous contract was coming to an end,
okay.
and therefore the council went out to tender, and Viv were the successful organisation to provide that service for us.
Just a pretty
it's just
straightforward,
a contractual issue.
Thank you. So,
Biden?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Harris. My question is just to seek clarification on the meaning of the addition in page 116, corporate parent implications on all council reports. What exactly is corporate parent implication? What exactly does that mean? It's just our understanding is not, I'm not questioning anything. I don't know what it means, just to know what we refer to by that. Thank you.
No, thank you for that question. It's very valid because it's part of our terminology, and we need to explain it when in a way that other people can understand, really. So as a local authority, there are occasions when we have to take, or we deal with child protection issues, and on occasions we deal with difficult positions. Children are no longer able to remain at home, and we have to put other alternative provisions in place. As that, we then become the corporate parent for that individual, which means that whereas you may make decisions around for your children, this local authority takes on that responsibility for those children who are in the care of the authority.
Thank you, Lord Harris. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Any comments? No? I've just got one little point. Sorry, Karis, I should have picked it up before. On page 133 of the document, which is the glossary of terms, it's got member as elected councillor, including co-opted councillors. Should that also include independent members?
Yes, I think it probably should. We ought to just broaden that out slightly.
Yeah,
if members are happy, we can make that amendment.
Yeah, because obviously we are all caught by the code of conduct, etc., etc. So,
yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can I just seek clarification in regards to the point Councillor Martin Williams raised in regards to whether the policy should actually be changed to take into account the decisions of council, or should it actually wait until next year? What's your view?
I mean, I suppose if you want to do it, now would be the time to do it. We review this document. The last time we did it was 2023, so we do it biannually by and large, unless something significant changes. So if committee are minded, then we can make an alteration into this version if you wish, and then approve that updated version. If you give us the I suppose the delegation to do that, rather than have to bring it back here after having done that.
Yeah, I think obviously it's an organic document, and council makes decisions as and when it does. But if the decision is already been made by the council, then I think we approve the updated code of corporate governance at Appendix B, subject to the amendments which have come out of the recent council meeting, and we grant you and presumably Kelly delegated power or whatever to deal with it.
I'm happy to do that, and I suppose we can then send an updated version out to you for information then once it's been done. Yeah.
Okay, if there are no other comments then, so the recommendation is that we approve the council's updated code of corporate governance, Appendix B, subject to any necessary amendments that needs to be required as a result of the recent council meeting, and that we grant delegated power to whatever your director and maybe the monitoring officer at legal to make those amendments, and then obviously we'll get a copy sent out in due course. Someone prepared to move, please?
Move.
Thank you. Seconded. Thank you. Anyone against? No. Thank you. Next one is the anti-tax evasion policy review.
This one is me as well, thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to present to you the updated anti-tax evasion policy prior to the policy being presented to Cabinet for final approval. So the Council is committed to establishing and maintaining effective arrangements to prevent and detect acts of bribery, corruption and tax evasion in relation to council services. The Council requires all members and employees to demonstrate the highest standards of honesty and integrity, and this includes compliance with this relevant legislation. The Government believes that relevant bodies should be criminally liable where they fail to prevent those who act for or on their behalf from criminally facilitating tax evasion. The anti-tax evasion policy specifically addresses the prevention of tax evasion and provides a coherent and consistent approach for all employees and any person who performs services for and on behalf of Bridgend County Borough Council. So the policy outlines the responsibilities of staff with regards to this matter, the commitment required at a senior level within the Council to implement the measures required to limit our exposure to this risk, how concerns should be reported, the training and information that's available to staff on this issue, and also how we will review that policy. So Cabinet last approved this policy in April 2023. This review has updated the policy and makes a number of minor changes. And again, we have for you Appendix A, the current version with the chat changes on it, and then the clean version at Appendix B for you. So the policy will be reviewed and is updated on a biannual basis. So if I could, I'd just take committee to section 9 of the report, where the recommendation is that we ask you to consider the amended policy attached at Appendix A. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Caris. Again, we've got a track changed document at Appendix A, so members can see the amendments. So, Colin?
Thanks, Chair. So, in page 169 of the pack, it's right to begin the report regarding the term relevant bodies. Caris, do you know if a community council is also a relevant body? It says corporate bodies, and then it says local authorities. So, do you know? If you don't know, that's fine. I wouldn't mind some clarification from the legal officer, though. Thanks.
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I'm happy to go away and seek clarification, and I can let committee know. Yeah.
Thanks. That's Colin. Councillor Granville.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, if I may, to Clarice, or to any of the officers who can answer. Do we need extra training for this as members?
Sorry, Chair. For the recording, Deborah Exton, Deputy Head of Finance. We don't have specific training on this particular policy, but what we do have is fraud training, which Simon has provided previously to members, and he can obviously provide it again if there are new members or if there's a requirement for a refresher training. We have a number of policies that help us to prevent against, fraud. So we have this policy, we have a number of other policies, some of which are on future Governance and Audit Committee agendas, including a whistleblowing policy. We obviously have a lot of procedures in place to help prevent it, and we do have a fraud prevention e-learning module as well, which you should be able to access. So there are a number of areas which, one, help to prevent it, but two, also help to inform about it. So if there's anything particular, though, that you had in mind, then if you want to recommend anything, but there is some training already in place.
Thank you for that, Deb. But no, what I was suggesting was it's a while since we've had training on that, right? And I'm just thinking perhaps we could have an updated training course just to get members back in focus, so we're all in line with what you're discussing. We'll have a better idea of exactly what you're discussing.
We can certainly take that away and look at that and put something forward. Yeah.
I think I agree with that, Richard. I think if we're amending policies and there are new requirements or changes, then a short training session would be useful to cover all the issues. So not just this, if we're doing the policy on, as we said, corporate governance or, the fraud strategy or whatever it may be, just say, look, these are the changes, this is how it affects you as a local member, etc., etc. It doesn't need to be a whole day session, I would have thought, but just if you've got the time. I know these take a lot of time to set up, but it would be worthwhile for members. Okay, Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Building really on what Councillor Granville said. Obviously, the policy is there, and I'm sure it's completely belt and braces. But in practical terms, where does tax evasion arise in our organisation? Presumably, it doesn't arise within our organisation because, we've got the controls in place. We're a long-standing public body. We're not paying for jobs in cash. Do you know what I mean? We're not creating those sort of conditions where tax evasion can arise. So to perhaps preempt your answer, my suspicion therefore is that we have to be very vigilant about what goes on in our supply chain. Would I be correct in that, or are there areas that we need to be vigilant of more generally across our organisation and our network, should we?
Yes, sorry about that, Councillor Williams. No, I think that's a very valid point. And what I didn't say when I introduced the report is just to reassure you that we've had no incidences in relation to this since we brought you the last policy. So what that tells you is that we've got systems and operations in place to identify any problem areas that we may have. There is, within the paperwork in Appendix A, some examples of where actually there may be weaknesses in the system. And I think you'll also see in the policy, it does detail what we're putting in place to try and mitigate those risks and to deal with them as much as possible. Of course, we are, as a big organisation, we do have checks and balances in the system, and we do ensure that different teams do different parts of that to ensure from an audit perspective that we have the right controls in place. So I think that we do know where the weakness areas would be, and therefore you'll see that in some of them we do daily checks on certain areas to make sure that there's nothing untoward going on. And as I said, I can report that we've had no incidents in relation to this since the last time the policy was reviewed.
Okay, no other questions? Any comments? No other comments? Go to the recommendation then that we, I should think, approve the amended anti-tax evasion policy attached to the Appendix A. Someone prepared to move, please?
I'll formally move that, Chair, with the amendment of training.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's additional item number 2, that officers investigate training, a training session on the updated policies. Someone prepared to move? Seconded? Councillor Colin. Anyone against?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes, Deb.
Can I just say that this policy, once it's been updated, will go to Cabinet for approval? Yeah.
Okay. So we recommend approval to Cabinet. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going a bit beyond myself there. I have all this power.
Can I ask for a comfort break? Thanks. All right, Chair.
Okay, can we just have 5 minutes comfort break for people to just have a cup of tea or a glass of water or whatever? Can we have you back at 11:38, please?